Man, really no need to sugarcoat it, man. We weren't ready for prime time tonight. All of us, not a good enough plan, not a good enough execution of that plan. You got to tip your cap to those guys. They had a good plan. They executed the plan. You know, they kind of made the significant plays, even with all the things that I said. You know, we had bang plays on both sides of the ball. It seems like they made them and we didn't.
Not a good start to the 2019 season for the Pittsburgh Steelers in New England against the defending Super Bowl champs. Welcome inside the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex. I'm Missi Matthews, and today we are starting our brand new roundtable to digest everything from the previous game. We have an excellent panel to kick things off, recapping Week 1. Arthur Moats, the former Steelers outside linebacker, will be joining us. A lot to talk about on defense, Arthur. We'll get to that in just a little bit. As always, Bob Labriola, my good friend and editor of Steelers Digest, writer for Steelers.com, is here as well. And Tunch Ilkin. You hear him on the radio. He gives us his keys all the time, watches a lot of film. And Tunch, we were going to want to know what you saw from the film from last night's loss. But we are going to start with a roster move, guys. The Steelers announcing today they have traded Josh Dobbs to Jacksonville for a 5th-round draft pick in 2020. Maybe, Lab, something you're not really shocked by. Are you shocked?
Okay.
Well,
I won't say shocked. I am a little bit surprised. I mean, I thought that what training camp in the preseason showed was that of the 4 quarterbacks the Steelers had on their 90-man roster, 3 were NFL caliber and 1 was an interesting underdog story. And I think that if, my personal opinion is if you're going to keep 3 quarterbacks on your 53-man roster, which is what the Steelers believe in and always have, especially under Mike Tomlin and Kevin Colbert, your 3rd quarterback has to be a legitimate guy. I'm not one of those who subscribe to the theory, well, if you get down to your 3rd-string quarterback, the cause is lost. In 2015, the Steelers were one of, I believe, 4 or 5 teams that had to play 3 quarterbacks. There's a guy on this panel who remembers that. And the 3rd guy was Michael Vick. Yes. And they won a couple of games with Michael Vick.
Indeed.
And that was the difference between getting in the playoffs and not getting in the playoffs that year. So I'm surprised by this. You spend a 4th-round pick to get Dobbs, and then you sell him for a 5th. Yeah. I mean, that's like what my wife does. She goes out and buys something at the store for $20 and then sells it at the next yard sale for $5. Now, to me, that's not the way to go. That's a losing proposition all the way down the line. So, yeah, I thought once that the roster was set at 90, that was going to be the depth chart of quarterback.
let me ask you this, Tunch. What is Jacksonville getting in Josh Dobbs?
Well, they're getting a quarterback with a strong arm. They're getting a quarterback that is brilliant, and it's really ironic that last year they picked up Landry Jones. This year they're picking up Joshua Dobbs. And they're getting a quarterback that could make big things happen with his feet. And, one of the things that I noticed in Joshua Dobbs is this year, instead of just tucking that run, he was running with still his eyes downfield. So I'm a big Joshua Dobbs fan. And, I wanted to see also him develop as a Nassau guy.
Arthur, in terms of Mason Rudolph now, he knew going into Week 1 yesterday he was the backup, but Coach made it clear you were going to have to earn that day-to-day, week-to-week. Does that put a little bit more pressure on him, knowing that he is officially the guy now, not knowing what they're going to do if they're going to sign another quarterback yet?
Yeah, it definitely does. He understands now that he has to be prepared if the worst happens and Ben goes down. He has to be the guy to step in. There is no alternative option. There is no, they might go with Dobbs because of his experience. Now it's completely on Mason to make sure that he's prepared and that he's taking care of business throughout the week. And I think he's a guy that understands that, and he's up for that challenge because he wants to do great things in this league.
I think the other thing that this shows is that the trade market that fans believe exists isn't the reality in the NFL. I mean, you don't get, a higher, Jacksonville really needs a quarterback. Why didn't the Steelers get more than a 5th-round pick for him? That's not the way the league works in terms of these kind of trades, especially when it's, Josh Dobbs has a few seasons in the league, but I wouldn't call him an established quarterback. What's he have 12 career pass attempts in the regular season? So he's still somewhat of an unknown product. And a lot of times, you know, these kinds of trades, the way I look at it anyway, is you're not really getting anything for it. So why do it? The guy might be more valuable to you keeping him, and you're not even recouping what you had to spend to get him in the first place.
That's an interesting point. And, you know, Missi, to your point about Mason Rudolph, I mean, you look at Mason, he's night and day from last year. You know, he worked on his footwork all season long. You talk to Sean Payton or Steve Mariucci or Andy Reid or any of those quarterback guys, they will tell you that a quarterback is built from the ground up and footwork. And like if you watch Sean Payton or if you watch Drew Brees in pregame, he is working on his footwork for the first hour. He doesn't even throw a pass in the first hour of his warm-up. And so when Mason Rudolph decided to work on his footwork, he is so much better at getting that ball out of there quick because his feet are on the ground. He's got a more powerful arm because his feet are on the ground, and he does a great job of moving in and out of the pocket, side to side, kind of like number 12 did last night. You know, Brady was very good in the pocket.
All right. Unfortunately, we're going to do a little bit of group therapy today and talk about that ugly loss at Gillette Stadium last night. So before we delve into maybe some of the details overall, guys, I just want to know, did you think it would end up this bad? You knew the Steelers' record 0-5 against Tom Brady at that stadium. Did you think it would be that ugly?
No.
No.
I mean,
Not at all.
Tom Brady's record in that stadium, beyond what it is against the Steelers, going into last night's game was 135-21 as a starter at Gillette. Excuse me, at Gillette Stadium, regular season and the playoffs. I mean, he's made a lot of teams look bad in that building, but I never thought it was going to be that much of a butt kicking.
And everything that I predicted was wrong, Missi. We were
club.
on with you. I said they were gonna. I said they were gonna stop the run. They did a little bit stop the run. They're only 99 yards, but then they were gonna react well to the play action pass. I believe that they were gonna collapse the pocket. And I thought Brady was going to fold up a couple times. I thought he was going to throw off his back foot, which would, when people get around him, that's what he does. I thought we were going to run the ball effectively, and I thought our receivers were going to have a big game. So I was wrong, and wrong.
Sounds like everyone was wrong, Arthur.
Well, you know, it takes a great person to be able to admit when they were wrong, and I too was wrong. I was under the impression that the inside linebackers in particular were going to win that matchup versus these Patriot running backs in the passing game, but that wasn't the case. We saw Rex Burkhead and James White have a lot of success and really exploit that matchup, and that was one of the big reasons why those drives were able to sustain and stuff like that. So I too was wrong, Tunch. I feel your pain.
There, of course, is a lot to go over, and we're going to do that coming up in just a little bit. But to go over some of the injuries from last night's game that Coach Tomlin told us about after the game, Joe Hayden left the game for just a play. Artie Burns filled in. He is dealing with a shoulder injury. He did go back in. But Marquise Pouncey, ankle injury. He did not return. Same with TJ Watt, dealing with a hip injury. And towards the end of the game, Juju Smith-Schuster was dealing with a toe injury. So I expect lots of questions and hopefully updates coming from Coach Tomlin's press conference tomorrow at noon. Also, Sean Davis, that ankle injury that kept him out of the game, he was inactive. So we have a lot more to talk about to break down the ugly loss in New England. We are going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly when we return here on the Steelers Roundtable.
There were a lot of mistakes, and it falls on us. You know, we had a good game plan, but we didn't execute well. When you do that versus a Super Bowl winning team, the performance isn't good enough. You know, we didn't come up. We didn't put our best effort on primetime.
Couldn't convert, third downs, we couldn't get drives, couldn't sustain things, you know, and that's partly on us and partly because of them.
All right, a lot to talk about. We are going to play the good, the bad, and the ugly. And of course, Tunch, you were up first with the good because we knew Labs definitely couldn't pick that one. So what is the silver lining?
You know, in Pittsburgh, we have a bunch of chicken littles. Everybody's saying the sky is falling, the sky is falling. It is not. It is just one game. I have an old saying. Just because it is does not mean that it is so. So the Steelers aren't that bad. They played bad, but they're not that bad, and they're going to be good. You know, I harken back to 30 years. Back in 1989, we lost 51-0 at home to Cleveland. Then we went to Cincinnati, lost 45-10. And then Chuck gave us this pep talk about pool water and don't let anybody do something in your pool. And that was the mantra for the rest of the year. And then we went into the playoffs. We beat the Oilers, and we were a drop ball away from beating Denver in Denver and going on to the AFC Championship game. I think this is a good football team. And one of the things that I think is because of their lack of work during preseason, they weren't firing on all cylinders.
All right, Arthur, we'll give you the bad this week. So what's something maybe in the middle of Tunch and Labs?
Man, I think that when you look at the possession downs, similar to what Ben Roethlisberger was talking about, they couldn't sustain drives offensively. They were 25% in terms of being successful on third downs. That kills your drives. That kills what you're trying to do from a running standpoint. Then when you look from the defensive standpoint, New England was 50% on third down plays. That doesn't let you get off the field. So as a defender, now you're playing far too many snaps. Stuff that could have been minimized or avoided. New England has the opportunities to do that because they stayed on the field longer than they should have been out there. So that's the bad aspect of it. But like you said, Tunch, the sky is not falling.
Right.
The sky is not falling. So they'll bounce
Labs
back
is
and
the
get that right.
Okay, we're going to the ugly now, Labs. The sky's falling in your world.
Well, okay. Here's the offseason. The offseason was spent. You added two high-profile veteran free agents, Mark Barron and Steven Nelson. You made a huge commitment on draft day. Went up and got Devin Bush. The previous two seasons, the Steelers were arguably the best pass rushing team in football. So you add those guys to help replace what you lost when Ryan Shazier was injured. Okay, and the defense was supposed to have some teeth now. Well, they were toothless in Cleveland, and I got some stats here. I actually did some research. 29 running plays for New England, only 2 tackles for loss. 36 pass attempts by Tom Brady, 1 sack, 1 pass defensed. He also threw 25 and touchdown passes of 25 and 53 yards, plus a 32-yarder to James White and a 44-yarder to Josh Gordon, and again, no takeaways. You can't play defense like this in the NFL. You can't just make tackles. You have to make plays. And adding all of these people, veterans, rookies, to what you had was supposed to change this. We saw some of it in the preseason, I thought. More takeaways, maybe not a lot of interceptions, but the pass rush was still there. Some fumble recoveries, the ball was out a little bit. But against New England, it was right back to the way it was, tackling receivers after they make the catch or lining up for the extra point after they cross the goal line. And to me, that's returning to a time and a style that cannot be supported in this league. And I'm not going to say that it's never going to change, but it hasn't. That I know.
It's subject to change.
I hope you're right.
I think it is.
But I mean,
good.
no. But
Yeah.
seriously, what have you seen that makes you think that?
Well, because the way the back seven and the speed they play with, and the speed that Bud Dupree and the speed that T.J. Watt rushed the passer, and I'm just encouraged. You know, I'm not going to dwell on this one. I'm gonna watch the film. I'm gonna scratch it off my list, and then I'm gonna move on to Seattle. I think they're gonna do the same thing.
But what about the receivers running between the safeties?
I was gonna say
that was 2007. Remember that?
Well, you got a rookie. You got a rookie that's starting at free safety, and he had a couple mental busts. Yeah. You know, if Sean Davis is in that position, you don't have the safety split. I'm sorry, you don't. Yeah. And I'm not being critical of Cam Kelly, but he's a rook. And you know, one of the things when you make adjustments and you change the call, it's always the rook that misses the call. You know, I remember it as a young player, because you know, when you're a rookie, your head is spinning. You're not reacting. You've got paralysis by analysis, and I think that's what happened there. He just, you know, he squatted on the post. You don't squat on a post, but that's a typical, to quote Howard Cosell, typical rookie mistake.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we return, we are unfortunately going to open up our time capsule for week 1 predictions we made heading into New England. You're not going to want to miss this one. We'll be right back.
You know, he's getting the ball out fast. He was finding those matchups. You know, he's completing the ball on third downs. You know, getting the ball, you know, behind the defense. Definitely checking in and out of, you know, running plays and play action plays and screens.
I was on Edelman one time in the slot. I knew he was going to throw the ball right away, and he did as soon as we threw it right to him. So he knows where he's going with the ball.
It's the same story every time. If you don't keep drives going, you don't stay in a rhythm, and they get up some scores, and that's what happens. You get one-dimensional, and it's not fun.
Good friend, really good guy, and I wish him the best, you know, moving forward.
You talked to him at all this morning?
Yeah, he came through here and said goodbye to a bunch of coaches and players, and that's the kind of guy he is. He's a first-class dude.
All right, that is some fresh sound from inside the Steelers locker room the day after the loss to the Patriots. Of course, Mason Rudolph there talking about the departure of Josh Dobbs. Everybody getting a chance to say goodbye to him this morning as he heads to Jacksonville. But sticking with the Pats and maybe some not so great predictions on our end, it is time now for our time capsule. We put some predictions, statements, maybe things we wanted to happen or thought would happen into this box heading into the game. So we're going to open it and see how wrong. I'm going to say everyone was probably really wrong. So let's go with the first one. Tunch, the defense will stop the run and rally to the ball.
Well,
not horrible.
I'm not as off as you guys.
Thanks, Tunch.
Are you seeking comfort? Don't seek comfort.
Good point, Arthur.
No, I'm not seeking comfort. That's competitive.
All right. Let's see who we have here. Arthur, Vance McDonald will have 7 receptions, 85 yards, and 1 touchdown.
It was a little off.
Yeah, just 1 catch.
And it came in the last minute of the
That's
fourth
right.
quarter.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the thought process behind it. I was thinking that.
I was with you, though.
You know,
I agreed with that.
That was going to be the matchup that they had no answer for.
Right.
I figured Juju would get his attention, James doing his thing on the ground, Vance is the X factor. And then when the game started and Van Noy wasn't playing on top of that,
right?
I was like, oh, this is perfect.
You're
It's
like,
set up. It's about to happen.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. When Van Noy went to watch his wife deliver a baby, that was who's going to cover Vance. But
what do you think Tunch thinks of that decision? The way he worded that.
We have enough to worry about than that.
You know, the question I have is I would have rather gone 4 receivers and Vance instead of 5 receivers because you want a big guy that is physical out there, and you know, I question that a little bit.
The Vanimal.
Yeah.
You wanted a stiff arm. All right. Sorry, Labs, I'm going before you. This was very wrong. I said James Conner will have over 100 yards rushing. Yeah, 10 for 21.
79 short.
Yeah.
You're well on your way.
I really did think, not that, you know, the Patriots knew what Jalen Samuels did to them last time, but I really thought with the Steelers O-line, just the continuity that they have, James Conner being in better shape, and them really maybe seeing what the Patriots were going to do against Juju and those guys, that it would open up the Steelers' run game. And yeah.
See, I thought that the Vance McDonald contributions in the passing game were going to be tied to James Conner's success on the ground, because if the Steelers could have established Vance McDonald as a threat in the passing game, it might have enticed the Patriots to go dime which is 6 defensive backs, and that's how Jalen Samuels went nuts last December at Heinz Field running the ball. So, you know, I was with both of you and wrong twice, and thankfully I didn't pick either of those things.
Well, let's see what you picked, Labs, since we have one more here. All right, Labs, you said that Devin Bush is going to be eased into the NFL.
Yes, and he played more snaps at inside linebacker than any other inside linebacker. He led the team in tackles with 11. I just thought, you know, again, based on last year's game at Heinz Field, Mike Tomlin elected to play Vince Williams 59 out of the 62 snaps. And he said after the game that even though playing Vince maybe didn't create the most advantageous matchups, the communication advantages that Vince gave the defense, he believed was worth it. Yeah. And so I thought that communicating in Foxborough was going to, as we were talking, saying, was going to be critical. And so to me, it just made sense to have Vince out there a lot, because instead of having John Bostic next to Vince, you had Mark Barron next to Vince now. And to me, that kind of mitigated some of the matchup issues that Belichick could have created possibly with the inside linebackers in the passing game. Made perfect sense, but it was totally wrong.
Whenever they went regular people, Vince was in. On first down, in neutral downs, when they had the 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a fullback, and a tailback, Vince was in. And when they went 3 wides and a tight end, that was when Mark Barron and Devin Bush was in.
And Devin Bush said after the game he thought that communication was one of the biggest problems for the Steelers defense too. So, all right, a lot to chew on, as Coach Tomlin said, but we did our best to maybe try to break it down, seek some comfort. Not so much. Lab's looking at me like I'm crazy.
No, I just wonder if we were more wrong down here than the players upstairs going through their meetings were wrong during the game. I'm just glad we're not getting yelled at like they are.
Very true.
That's right. No team meeting for us.
Yeah, well, we were wrong, but it's not the first time, and we made our predictions from an analysis standpoint by watching film, and the film supported what we thought was going to happen, but the Steelers didn't come to play. As Mike said, we weren't ready for prime time.
All right, well, hopefully we get ready for the Steelers home opener on Sunday against the Seattle Seahawks. That is going to do it for our roundtable today. To Labs, Tunch, and Arthur, thanks so much for joining me. Coach Tomlin's press conference tomorrow at noon. Steelers Live will be back at 4 p.m. Have a great night, everybody.